Hello, everybody. Welcome to Scotty's Side. That's the name of my channel.
Scotty's side.
Scotty's Side. It's like my side of my point of view. So it's like
Good.
my side of the story. Today is a special one because we're going to interview. This is my grandma, Norma, and we're just going to talk briefly about a couple things.
Yes.
So the first one, I kind of mentioned before we started that the roles between men and women, how they've differed over the years. So you're born in 1932,
Correct.
so you're 90 years old,
Correct.
and yeah, today women kind of seem to be a lot more masculine.
They are. They're much more active
Yeah.
outside the home
Uh huh.
than they ever have been.
Yeah.
Yes. When I was growing up, of course, the father worked long, hard hours, maybe two jobs, and the mother stayed home with the children. But today, that's changed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Children go to daycare,
Yeah.
you know, and one of the benefits of this is that the children can go to a good daycare and learn a lot before they go to school,
Mm.
which we didn't have that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So that part's good.
Okay.
As long as they get good care,
Yeah.
proper meals.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. So, okay. So the father, would go out and work. So also, nowadays there's a lot of single mothers.
Yes.
When there was a single mother, I guess that was not looked at favorably.
No, they were looked down up because that's right.
Yeah, not widows
Yeah,
necessarily.
right.
Not widows, but someone that decided to floozy around. So
Yeah, that's right. And so that was a problem because they still had the children. Where do we put them? Who takes care of them?
right, because
Who
now
teaches them?
the
Yeah.
mother has to work,
Yes.
right? So when did you see that become more prevalent, the single mother thing?
Oh gosh, that was probably in 1950, in the 50s, I think. During some of the war hours, honey, women went to work, and then they never seemed to be happy to go back. You know,
Never go
in,
back.
in the home where they only take care of the children. They wanted to keep their jobs.
Yeah.
They wanted to work. They wanted to earn money because now they had
Okay. One sec.
considered your own money.
Just that deposit there. So, okay, so they started working and they didn't want to go back to being moms.
Because they had their own money.
Interesting.
The independence
Right.
with their money. They were working. Because I think before,
Now, did these women have children? Generally? Okay. So, but they had to work so they could pay for a babysitter. But then they still thought they were they still were independent. But that means that they had to work. And, are they really being a mom at that point?
no, they're not, honey.
Right.
I think of about maybe third grade, they even took care of other little children
Right.
at a very young age.
So the older
out
kids
here.
would take care of the younger
Yes,
kids. Yeah,
uh-huh.
right.
If,
Well,
if they didn't have the money to send them to a preschool.
sure. Gotcha. Okay. So that started happening in the 50s, you say? Now, were you talking right there about more like widows or not? Or just,
Well, a lot
Those
of
that
them
got
were
broke.
widows because in the 40s when we had the war,
right,
a lot of them
yeah. So
lost their men or disabled men.
so they weren't necessarily doing it by choice.
Absolutely, survival.
Survival, yeah, okay. But also you said that they could have maybe gotten with someone or had some kind of, because you mentioned their independence, but then they started liking that independence. You notice that?
Absolutely, that became a problem.
It was a problem.
Yeah, a big problem, because once they had their independence, then it's never gone back.
Yeah. And then, sorry, you were going to say something?
No, like I said before, all they did is work and clean at home and take care of the children. And I can imagine what it felt like now to have somebody come in and take care of their children or take them to a daycare.
Yeah.
And then they go out and meet other people,
Mm-hmm.
friends, and, you know,
Go out and partay.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like there was this another side of life besides what they were in.
Yeah. That's interesting. And so after that, it just kind of more and more happened. It just kind of started happening more and more, you noticed.
Yes, they did.
Okay.
Well, and the women were hard workers,
Mm-hmm.
and the employers really liked them
Yeah. Why is
because
that?
because they were hard workers. They didn't, you know,
Mm-hmm.
pay attention to anything but what they were doing at work.
Yeah.
Where I think men had worked for so many years, they were getting a little bit tired of it. You know.
Yeah. I mean, when you're working that hard for that long, I would imagine. But so another kind of point that's brought up a lot is birth control. So once birth control kind of came around, which I think 50s and 60s, probably more in the 60s, but that's when you started noticing a lot more of the hippie stuff, the free love, and
Absolutely.
a lot of sex before marriage and that kind of thing. What do you think about that?
I thought that was wrong. They had a big camp here over in Eastern Oregon. Trying to remember, it's a very famous camp. If you look it up, it'll tell you.
Yeah,
And
I think I know what you're talking about. I don't remember the name either.
yeah, it was just, they were crazy over there.
Oh boy.
Yeah, they were absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
They thought they could do anything and have everything. And they didn't, they worked, though sometimes a lot of them worked during the day. And then at night they had partying all night.
Mm-hmm.
It was like a religion. Well, it was a religion.
Yeah.
Trying to think of the name of that religion they had over there till it became very destructive.
Yeah. There's a lot of thought that the whole birth control thing is kind of what caused the rise of single mothers and single parent households, excuse me, and that's kind of contributing to why there's more crime because these children aren't raised with their fathers.
That's right, honey.
So do you think that fathers being in the home is very important?
Very, very
Just-
important.
Yeah.
But the fact that he worked so long, hours, and he wasn't at home,
Yeah.
and then she became bored.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she didn't have a husband at home. And then sometimes her and her friends would go out just for some entertainment to get out of the house.
Sure.
I know I had two aunts that went a little crazy doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Didn't like it, huh?
yeah, they would have been out every night, and they're married to the nicest guys in the world. And the men just put up with it and took care of the children. And they were out usually in the taverns.
The girls, the women.
My aunts, my two aunts.
Wow. Wow.
And everybody knew they were kind of wild.
Yeah.
And the whole town, you know, I mean,
Oh boy, the whole town knew
yeah,
about it, huh?
yeah, where we lived. Everybody knew.
Wow.
It was kind of
So-
hard, I think, on some of them, but my dad used to drink a lot too, so. And then Lloyd, his brother, younger brother, he was a drinker. So there was a lot of them. There were a couple of sisters that never touched it.
Hmm.
I think out of the 6 children, there were just 2 sisters.
Did they ever say why they? I mean, besides being maybe a little bored, like why they wanted to go out and be wild. Um, what was the reasoning there?
Well, their mother,
Uh-huh.
my grandma White, was quite wild.
Oh,
And she was married to one of the nicest men in the world, Grandpa. But she would have her children and then just leave the children. She had 3 children that she just walked away on, left them at the hospital,
jeez.
twins and a younger one. And so my mom and dad took them in. Mervyn and Irvin were the twins, and Roddy was the third one. But was never in her life, I don't think, ever felt about being a mother or being anything that she didn't want to be. That was sad.
That's very sad because the children suffer.
They suffered.
You know, it's,
They all suffered.
seems like kind of a selfish thing to do when you have
Very.
someone looking at someone that depends on you or someone's. That's
Especially your
unfortunate.
children, especially your
Yeah.
children. You wonder how she could have done that. But I think then they felt like they were suppressed. They were entitled to a good time. But a lot of them, honey, married very young too.
Right.
At 15, they started having children.
Yeah, yeah, that's very very young.
So by 16, 17, they maybe had 3 or 4 children. Just think about that.
Yeah, jeez. By that young, yeah.
If you're 18 and you have 4 children and really didn't get to have a good education,
Wow,
that's why a lot of them walked away.
wow. Did any of them ever get remarried or did they ever divorce or anything? The wild ants.
No, they just walked away.
Wow.
And they were married, like I say, to super guys, 2 of them. Very
Good
nice.
guys, huh?
And they took responsibility of everything.
Wow.
They were fortunate,
Yeah.
the children.
Yeah. It's
And they came sometimes to stay with us for a whole summer.
wow. I didn't know about any of this. I'm just learning about this today.
We had a big house.
Yeah.
It was a big apartment upstairs. Out, you could have a exit outside the house in the back, and an awful lot of them would come and stay with us. My mother was very good to all of them. She never discriminated between us and them.
Good.
That's pretty hard not to think your
Yeah.
children aren't getting enough, or someone else is getting too much, or
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. Huh.
She was a very, very special person.
Good. What was her name again?
Vera.
Vera. Yeah. I've heard that name. Wow. So crazy. So, I mean, you're lucky to find someone that took you in. You know.
Absolutely.
Yeah. It's very fortunate. So that's crazy how they just walked out. Wow. And so, kind of moving on more now. Now you have options of like abortion,
Absolutely.
and back then it's kind of like if you got pregnant, well, that was it. And I think that kind of compounds the issue of like, well, I can just go screw a bunch of guys. There's no consequences. It seems like that's kind of what's contributing to a lot of issues is that there are no consequences for these women anymore. You have birth control, and now you have abortion. It's pretty much legal everywhere, almost. And so, what are your thoughts? I know you're against abortion, but what do you think of like how it's a lack of consequences? for
And
women.
it definitely was, honey, and I think that's why the women were set back as far as the respect and the love and consideration
Yeah.
by not just the men, but by their women friends that didn't do that. You know,
Yeah.
and they were literally really outcast. And I thought many times, if you could just reach them and show them what life could be, it would help. But you have to be professional to be able to understand where they're at, why they're at that place. So they needed professional help probably at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and there's also been studies done about how if if a woman has sex with a lot of guys, a lot of partners, she has the inability to what's called pair bond with someone, like create a bond with someone. So if you're having sex with a lot of guys, then maybe the guy that you decide to marry someday, you're not going to be able to bond to him because you just had meaningless sex with a bunch of people.
That's
you
true.
know? And I don't know. There's a lot of studies that have shown that's the case. So it seems to be like all of these things that have really kind of changed how women are and women act. It's interesting.
Yes, because some of them have really made them become more women and very respected. Or else, pardon me, they used to be called sluts.
Yeah. Well, they're still called sluts today. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a hussy.
And sometimes you walk down the street with maybe a friend and you're in high school and they said, oh, I know she's a slut. And I said, how do you know that? And they said, well, we just know those things. And I said, well, maybe I don't want to know those things. I was kind of the pure. They understood and they were through a lot more than I was ever gone through at a young age.
You what?
I said they had gone through a lot more than I had ever gone through at a young age. They had a lot of brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles, and I think they knew a lot more about life, certainly. The good part and the bad part.
Yeah. Well, there's good and bad.
Yeah, if that helps.
There's, but yeah, I don't know. It's crazy, and I wanted your perspective on it. There's not a lot of people still around that, grew up in. Because you grew up in a little house with. Did it have no running water, but it had electricity, or was it the other way
We
around?
had to have electricity from quite a ways plugged into the house.
Yeah.
And then we could only use it at certain times.
Really?
Else it was overloaded.
Oh, jeez.
Yes. And we always had to get our water from the well. Go out and get the water and bring it in. Heat the water, take our bath.
Yeah. And then you got an outhouse?
We had an outhouse.
Yeah. Wow. And now look at it. We're got these cell phones and TVs.
Yeah, how far we have come.
Yeah.
The good and the bad, honey.
Right. It's crazy.
Yeah, as when we were young, the difference was we didn't know that we were maybe neglected or hurt. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you didn't know.
No. We were always out playing, having fun.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there were a lot of children that were inside, maybe being abused.
Yeah.
But then when you got a certain age, you had to take your turn staying home.
Yeah.
With the younger ones, staying home to clean the house before mother got home from work.
Wow.
Saw the mess they were in. But when you look back on them, they were wonderful good days. A lot of learning, honey.
Yeah.
That's what I think. Learning about life and giving and caring and
Wow. Crazy. Well, okay. I'll end the video because it's about 20 minutes now.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay. And then my brother went in the service very, very young. He lied and he got in the service
What do you mean he lied?
over in Germany, was about his age.
Oh, wow. So he wanted to.
Yeah, he
wanted
wanted
to go.
He wanted to go.
Wow.
So
Well, see, that's the other thing now too is, men, they seem to be getting pushed out of these roles because they're saying like, that's bad nowadays. Like if someone wants to be masculine and be a man, it's seen as toxic, right?
That's right.
And so, I think a lot of boys and men are being pushed away from being that because now society says it's bad. What do you think about that? Do you think that's going to be good for us, for society in general? Having, weak men that don't want to.
yeah, it's going to be awful, honey. Yeah, really. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we always looked up to, like I say, the man or our older brother. We
Yeah.
had an older brother that we looked up to.
Yeah. Even if it was like maybe an uncle or
That's
something.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
In those day and age, well, we weren't independent, I think, so we pretty much depended on whatever someone told us, whatever we gained in knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have to experience yourself or you thought you knew about life until you found out what life is about.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah, I don't think it's good either, the way that men are going. And, there's all this talk about it and stuff like that, but then when I go out personally to maybe a bar or some kind of event or something like that, women don't want guys like that. They go for the guys that are considered jerks and stuff like that because they're masculine, they're men, and the girls like it. They do, really.
Isn't
And
that a shame?
it is. It's. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I think you're right. I think it's going to be awful for us. I agree. So, but we'll see, I guess, huh?
Yeah, I think, like I say, years ago it seemed like you grew up like you know your place as a woman, what you should be doing, and what a man should be doing. And men worked very, very hard, long hours on it.
Yeah. Well, they built the country. They
Yeah,
built all these.
the country, and then if he was married and had, like we had 4 children, mom and dad, that's a lot of mouths to feed.
Yeah.
Shoes and
Close, yeah.
clothes to buy, yeah. So I always had hand-me-downs,
Yeah. Sure.
but my sister was such a classy lady and
Ah.
a dresser that, yeah, anything that I got from her was almost new.
Wow.
Yeah, she was a sweetheart.
Good for you.
So
Good for
being
you.
the middle one is kind of nice because they pay attention to the oldest and the youngest.
Mm-hmm.
I think the middle is a very, very nice spot to be.
Great. Awesome. Okay. Well, on that, we'll end this video.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it.
I love you, hon.
Love you too. So, okay.
We'll
See
get-
y'all next time. What's that?
Yes, that's what I was going to say. See you next time.
All right. I love you all.
I
Later.
love you better.
All right. See you guys.